First, though, the good. Meet Lilu, the first therapy pig at the San Francisco International Airport. Well, she sports different costumes every day, and even
joining us, Fox and Friends starts right now.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Good morning on this Thursday. One more alarm clock. It's December 8th. Brian, I see you smiling. Steve, isn't that great news? I'm Ainsley, here with Steve and Brian. Listen to this. General outrage. Donald Trump set to name another general to his cabinet, putting 3 top military men in his inner circle. And the left is freaking out about this. Wait until you hear what they're saying this morning.
And maybe it is time for a different approach, because the Obama administration just said this about ISIS.
The ability of ISIL to initiate major land offenses, that was not on my intelligence radar screen.
It wasn't? We were all talking about it. We have tape that proves otherwise, Mr. President.
Yep, and Colin Kaepernick, are you listening?
Those who died that fateful morning 75 years ago never took a knee and never failed to stand whenever they heard our national anthem being played.
And they just stood up and applauded that. The Admiral's patriotic message going viral. We'll share it with you because your mornings are better because you're with friends.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
We hope Sheriff Clark knows our name.
Sure, everybody knows his name now. He's going to be on with us. Interesting, he's going to tell us that fake news started with Ferguson, Missouri. That's coming up. Plus, here's the reason why we're listening to the music.
John Ratzenberger will be with us.
He's going to help us go Christmas shopping.
He is. He also is the voice of the working man, the blue-collar worker, and a great postman.
Also, Marcus Allen, the football great, will be here, and Jenny Garth from 90210. I wanted to be her when I was in high school.
Well, now you can have her recipes because she's cooking with friends on this Thursday. Welcome aboard, live from New York City. It's Fox and Friends, the world's #1 cable morning news show. Thanks to you.
Yes, thank you.
Meanwhile, I was watching Kellyanne Conway yesterday, and I didn't know this. She said the number's about 70. About 70 different people have already been invited up and come up to visit Donald Trump. Some are appointments, some just being consulted, some are just offering goodwill, and others are invitations from people from the other side. But meanwhile, along the way, Donald Trump is setting a record pace for filling out his cabinet. And yesterday was also a very significant day.
You know, what's interesting about the Donald Trump cabinet, and yesterday's big face is retired Marine General John Kelly, heading up the Department of Homeland Security. This is not a usual Republican cabinet, which is Republican establishment, think tankers, and government officials. Instead, he's got business people, he's got government officials, but he's got a lot of military men. So far, it looks like 3. Also, he's considering David Petraeus and Admiral Stavridis for the Department of State. Plus, he's considering Admiral Mike Rogers for the Department Director of National Intelligence. So he could have 5 different generals there, which is interesting because a lot of people say there's always been a constitutional tenet where you have a division between the civilian and military. You got so many military guys. Do you really want to do that?
Well, the 3 generals that we know for sure that will be on the cabinet: General Flynn, General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, and then also General John Kelly, who's Homeland Security Director, and that was just announced.
So you have these generals together, and many people speculate, well, wait a second, is this the right mix? Are we sending out the right message? Especially Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, and then listen to Josh Earnest take a shot at Donald Trump.
What may tip the balance for me is if the president-elect populates even more positions with the administration with other military figures, I'm going to have a lot of heartburn about this. It's going to place the Mattis waiver in real jeopardy.
The kinds of people that President-elect Trump has chosen appear to have, in many cases, different priorities, different styles, and in some cases, starkly different bank accounts.
Right. So there are some rich people. That's usually not a bad thing.
What's wrong with having differences?
But I also thought Josh Earnest is not on the same page as his president, because evidently his president has been speaking with Donald Trump about cabinet positions, and Donald Trump's lauding him for the advice he took. And when Adam Schiff comes out and says, I might have a problem with this, he's not in step with his leadership, because Nancy Pelosi and Adam Smith of over on the West Coast, they said, listen, we're not going to stop Mattis's wavering.
Right, which is a good thing. I mean, I think people really, I know his supporters, Donald Trump supporters, are excited about that. What's wrong with this, though? You've got Donald Trump, who's bringing jobs back. He's already doing that with Carrier, and that was the #1 reason people went to the polls. The #2 is national security. So if he fills his cabinet with 3 to 5 generals or people with military experience, those are the kinds of people that have fought for our country, that have sacrificed the most. You have General Kelly. He lost his son. He served for 40 years before he retired from the Marines. He's a Gold Star father. He lost his son in Afghanistan in 2010. Marine First Lieutenant Robert Kelly. This is a man who knows what it's like to sacrifice.
In charge of the Southern Command of the country, saw the rise of Iran in South America, and also saw the problem with immigration into our country.
Which means he'll have a big role in the implementation of the wall if Donald Trump builds
Look, here's the thing. Generals are guys who can run big things, and these organizations that they're talking about running are big and need some help in. Also, they're results-oriented. They're generally pragmatic rather than ideological, and they know what's going on in the world, which was shocking when President Obama sat down with a guy over at CNN and was talking about ISIS, or as the president refers to it as ISIL, which he says it's a problem, and he didn't really see it coming. What?
The ability of ISIL to initiate major land offenses, that was not on my intelligence radar screen.
I said, why? Because so many people warned the president. Okay, you say that ISIS is not on the rise, it's a JV team. What about Al-Qaeda? We killed Al-Qaeda. They were both big problems, still are.
A bunch of military leaders says that's not the case. We told him about ISIS, and he knew about it. Listen.
Syria has become a huge magnet for extremists.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is a designated global terrorist under U.S. law, and we believe is currently based in Syria. His mission, as clearly stated in his own statements, is to carve out a zone of governing territory from Baghdad through Syria to Lebanon.
Just the level of destruction that they're having, the level of killing that they're doing inside of that country is terrible.
They told him there was also a problem with him not reading his daily briefing, and a problem at CENTCOM having their analysis brought up to the White House, and somehow that analysis coming from CENTCOM was changed. That has never been thoroughly vetted.
Maybe the president doesn't get maybe he doesn't get C-SPAN. Well, that was all on C-SPAN. Maybe he wasn't watching.
The other thing is, it's important to bring up in that he gave a magazine interview at that time. When he made that statement, people said, there's a lot of unrest we don't have any troops there anymore. There's a lot of unrest in Iraq and Syria. He says, and these are just an Al-Qaeda affiliate. He goes, just because they're wearing a Laker jersey doesn't mean they're Kobe Bryant. And remember, this is the JV team. Man, were they wrong. Carl Higbee weighed in last night on with Martha McCallum filling in for Megyn Kelly. Listen.
Barack Obama's foreign policy has been a complete disaster. He knows darn well that his intelligence community told him that, and any general that told him that ISIS was going to be a problem, he fired them. That way he wouldn't have to listen to him. And all the people who didn't speak up are the ones that stuck around, that he didn't get rid of. So when he says that he didn't hear about this from the intelligence community, that's malarkey. I know for a fact guys like General Flynn told him that this was going to be an issue.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of generals told the president what was going on, and he fired a lot of generals. And now we are where we are. We got a new commander-in-chief, starts the 20th day of January.
And a new poll. This is from Bloomberg, I believe, a Bloomberg Politics survey. It shows Trump's favorability. Remember back in August, look at the bottom. He had 33% favorability. Now, after a month and a day or a month and 2 days after the election, his favorability is 50%. So half the country is in favor of Donald Trump as the next president.
Which is interesting on many accounts. Number one, Barack Obama was through the roof at this point in 2008. People had high hopes. He had 69% 60%. But this is the first poll in the 2 years that Donald Trump has been running for president that he's at 50%.
Well, here's the thing. He has jumped 17%, which is extraordinary. But when you look at the other parts of the Bloomberg poll, the right track, you know, the whole question, is the country on the right track or the wrong track? Right now, the number is the highest it has been in 4 years. The wrong track number is the lowest it has been in 7 years. And regarding the Affordable Care Act, 67% of those responding said, yeah, we want them to fix it. We want it replaced.
What do you think
Fixed it or replaced? That's going to be huge because the way they get rid of repeal and replace is could make or break his 4 years in office.
I think the reason for the favorability being so high right now is Carrier. I think that was great.
Sure helped.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people are optimistic.
All right, we have some breaking news, and Heather is over there standing by with some headlines. Hey, Heather.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Right now, a massive manhunt is underway for an escaped inmate wanting for stabbing a police officer in South Carolina. Michael Allen Williamson is accused of stabbing an officer inside a Walmart after he broke out of prison. He was serving a life sentence for armed robbery. The officer is now hospitalized and is in stable condition. We'll follow this story as it develops. At this hour, there is a desperate search on for a missing Marine. His F-18 jet crashing near the coast of Japan after something went wrong during a training mission that pilot forced to eject. This is the 6th F-18 jet crash this year for the United States. 14 people killed and nearly 2,000 homes and buildings destroyed. And this morning, police say the 2 teenagers are to blame for all of that. The suspects now behind bars. They are accused of starting the deadly wildfires that have been raging across the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. The 2, we're told, could be tried as adults. And so long to Harry Reid, the Senate Minority Leader, an outspoken opponent of the president-elect, giving his final farewell speech just a few hours from now. The 5-term Nevada senator, first elected to serve back in 1986 in the Senate. Hillary Clinton will be there, her first time at the Capitol since she lost the presidential election. New York Democrat Chuck Schumer will now take over as the Democrats' Minority Leader. And those are your headlines. We've got a lot of stuff going on today.
Times they are changing. All right, Heather, thank you.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, as President-elect Donald Trump works to fill up his cabinet, the Secretary of State slot still open. Who's it going to be? Could it be Rudy? Could it be Romney? Could it be a Petraeus?
Senator Cory Gardner says you better watch. Another name. He is here to tell us who it is next.
Right. And boy, is he liberal filmmaker Michael Moore, not known for his fitness, now planning a major disruption for Inauguration Day. And he's activating the liberal left to force the ceremony indoors.
Well, a group of Republican lawmakers has a message for President Obama. Hold it with the regulations. They wrote him a letter, and in it they wrote, "It is our job now to determine the right balance between regulation and free market principles and make sure our federal government no longer stands between Americans and financial success." Isn't that exactly what President-elect Donald Trump's new EPA pick, Scott Pruitt, wants to do? Well, Colorado Senator Cory Gardner was one of the leading senators behind that letter. He joins us this morning. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning.
Well, we know how this works. President Obama's got about a month left, and he's going to try to jam as many regulations through as possible. But you don't think that's a good idea, do you?
You know, this is a bad idea. Over the past 8 years, the American people have already seen nearly $1 trillion worth of regulations passed under this administration. We know this midnight regulation period, the time between the election and the swearing in of a new president under Republicans and Democrats, has led to an extremely intense period of activity for new regulations. In fact, if you look back at the 2000 and 2004 timeframes under the president, we see nearly 2 times more regulatory activity, particularly regulations that cost the economy $100 million or more. And with $1 trillion already added on the backs of Americans, that's just too much. It's got to stop, and that's what we're telling the president.
We've got some graphics that show that the projected number of regulations under President Obama is probably going to be in the 440, something like that. About 90 more, well, let's see, 80 more than President Bush and a whole bunch more than President Clinton. Doesn't doesn't President Obama understand, Senator, that as soon as Donald Trump comes in, he's going to undo a bunch of that stuff?
Yeah, the president spent a lot of time bragging about what he was going to accomplish with the pen and the phone, but those same actions can be undone by the pen and the phone and a Congress that was sent back into the majority in the House and the Senate with a mission to undo the damage to our economy and to the opportunities that this president has created over the last 8 years. Sure. And so that's what we're going to do, is make sure that we can make opportunities, innovation, entrepreneurs happen again, successful again for the people of this country.
Well, here's the thing. The EPA has been busy writing a whole bunch of regulations and trying to make sure that we have clean water and clean air, which we do. However, the Attorney General of the great state of Oklahoma is Scott Pruitt, and he is Donald Trump's pick to be the EPA administrator. He's the kind of guy who would like government to get out of the way.
Yeah, well, that's what we need. We need government get out of the way, let the American people work, and when it comes to things like the EPA, take accountability for actions like spilling toxic waste into rivers in Colorado, pay the damages caused by the spilling of that toxic waste, which they have not done yet, to private claimants, even though this was well over a year ago, to make sure that, look, if the last 8 years holds true and we don't repeal them, that's an added cost of nearly $3,000 in regulations to every single American. And you look at the number of people across this country who feel like they are worse off today than they were before this president. We've got to do better, and that's that's why they turned the election around the way they did in November. And that's why they sent Republicans back into the majority in November.
And of course, with all that cost, you're talking about the loss of many, many jobs, but that's for another day. Meanwhile, I understand as Donald Trump is going to be announcing his Secretary of State pick, which could come next week, you think Senator Bob Corker, one of your colleagues in the Senate, actually has a pretty good shot at Secretary of State. Why?
Yeah, I do think Senator Corker has a very good shot at Secretary of State. Look, this is a senator who understands the importance of the United States' role around the globe, somebody who's built relationships with important leaders around the globe, somebody who I think very much is in line with the thought process of President-elect Donald Trump. I believe it's important that the president have somebody he can trust, somebody who has good relations on Capitol Hill, and I think Bob Corker fits that to a T. There are others who are very good as well, but I do think that Bob Corker would have a particularly easy time getting confirmed by the U.S. Senate.
Real quickly, though, if it were Mitt Romney, who didn't have anything nice to say about Donald Trump before the election, if it were Mitt Romney, you okay with that?
I think Mitt Romney would be an incredible Secretary of State, and I think he would have an easy time as well through confirmation. There are a number of good people that are qualified, but what we have to do, though, is find somebody who's going to stand up to Russia, who's going to understand the problem and the catastrophe we face in North Korea if we don't change our direction away from the president's failed strategy, President Obama's failed strategy of strategic patience, and make sure that we have a plan in the Middle East and to address terrorism. That's what the next Secretary of State must do.
Well, we should know the name by next week. All right. Senator, thank you very much for joining us. You're going to be the first one in the office today there in D.C.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right. Coming up on this Thursday, not one, but two American flags torched on the 75th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack. And the person who did it will probably get away with the crime. We're going to tell you what we know. And do you share a bank account with your spouse? Then how do you get them a Christmas gift without them knowing? Dave Ramsey's daughter, Rachel Cruz, knows because she does it all the time. She's going to spill her secret coming up.
Look a lot like Christmas.
We have engine ignition. 2, 1, and liftoff of the United Launch Alliance.
Wow, some space headlines coming your way now. A Delta rocket successfully launches from Cape Canaveral. The rocket carrying a U.S. Air Force satellite to improve communications with U.S. troops. And American astronaut John Glenn is battling a mysterious illness. He's 95 and he was admitted to a cancer facility in Ohio. Officials aren't releasing any information about his condition. Glenn was, as you know, the first American to orbit the Earth back in 1962. He later went on to become a Ohio senator and went back to space. Ainsley?
Okay, thank you, Brian. 'Tis the season for shopping, but 78% of Americans believe that they have overspent during the holidays in the past. So what should you do this year to keep more of your own money? Here to answer your questions is Ramsey Solutions finance expert and author of the book Love Your Life, Not Theirs, is Rachel Cruz. Good morning, Rachel. Good to see you.
Good morning, Ainsley. Good to see you, too. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we filed through some emails that we were getting, and we wanted to share 4 of them with you from folks here in America that are dealing with different issues this Christmas, and they're really good emails, so let's get right to it. Heidi from Arizona says, my husband and I are paying off debt, and we don't want to lose any momentum during the holidays. It seems rude not giving back to those who have given to us. How can we convey gratitude without spending money?
When it comes to the holidays, communicate with your friends and family. So this situation, they're putting all their extra income towards paying off debt. So talk about that, share that. And on the flip side, it's not like they expect to be given all these gifts and nothing in return. So even say, hey, we're going to skip Christmas gifts entirely this year, so don't feel the pressure to buy us a gift. And so really, you have to look at your present and really be very focused on paying off that debt.
Yeah, a lot of people are too embarrassed to tell their friends about their financial situations, but it really makes you real, genuine, and a lot of people can relate to that, and you're an honest person for doing it. So I think that's great advice. All right, this one's from Lisa. She lives in Texas. She says, I love this one. My 12-year-old daughter saved her money for 13 months to buy a $200 item that she wants. My husband and I would like to buy it for her for Christmas, leaving her with all that money that she saved. Is that doing her a disservice? What is your advice here?
Well, first, Lisa, I'd say congratulations as a parent. I mean, well done, right? Making this connection between work and money as a 12-year-old. You taught that. And so, I mean, that's amazing. So what I would say is go ahead and let her buy that gift. I mean, she's saved up. Let her, realize that she made a goal and that she accomplished it. And so really reinforce that for her. But I would take that $200 you were going to buy that gift and buy her something else.
Okay, Steve, listen to this one, because Steve was talking about this right before we went to commercial. Katrina from Tennessee wrote us, and she says, my husband and I have combined bank accounts, and we understand the importance of talking openly about our money. We love surprising each other with gifts for the holidays, so how can we maintain the secrecy while being transparent?
Well, the great thing here is that the gift giving isn't the surprise, right? You both know you're going to be buying Christmas gifts. So talk about the amount of money you want to spend, cash that out, and go and buy the gift with that. Or if you want to buy online, just buy a gift card to that store and buy the gift. I mean, the positives of having a joint checking account as a couple are tremendous. I mean, the communication, the unity. And so the few times that it's kind of inconvenient, it's worth it. This is what my husband and I do. And trust me, you'd rather have a combined bank account and just cash out some money and go buy gifts.
Okay, great advice. Catherine from Iowa, she wrote us and she said, I'm struggling to save for my wedding, pay my student loans and other bills every month. I'm considering skipping Christmas this year. What do you think? Rachel?
Sometimes it is okay to skip Christmas. I mean, if you don't have the money, you can't buy things, is my philosophy. Don't go into debt. So what I would tell her is do a budget and really see if there's any kind of money you can squeeze out, buy some inexpensive gifts, you can do that, or skip Christmas entirely. I really am okay with that. Again, focus on the present for your long-term gain.
Christmas is not about the gifts, as we know. I have a friend, they bring 3 gifts for each child because of the wise men. They each brought a gift. So the kids just get 3 gifts each, and I thought that was a great idea. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, I love it. Thanks,
I like your
Ainsley.
advice. Thank you, Rachel. Good to see you. Merry Christmas.
You too.
Thank you. Left-wing filmmaker Michael Moore now planning a major disruption for Inauguration Day, and he is activating the liberal masses to help him. And if you listen to the mainstream media, President Obama is leaving behind a good economy. Just check out the headlines. Look at that. But is it true? Stuart Varney is in next with the answer. But first, we want to wish Sam Hunt a very happy birthday. The singer turns 32 today, and we are glad he was born.
Try to shut us down. If you're gonna be a homebody, we're gonna have a house party. If you wanna be a homebody, we're gonna have a house.
Medicine. Don't take Entresto. The most serious.
This is your Peloton. This is your instructor, Robin. Robin is not going to go easy on you. This is you attacking the hill, crushing the flats, climbing your way through the pack. This is how you make a better day for yourself and your family. Here in your home. This is Peloton.
Get this, there are reports that Trump will be getting a golden doodle puppy when he takes office. And this is very interesting. To teach it how to beg and roll over, they actually brought in Mitt Romney.
Really?
Not amazing? Really? You wouldn't think that he...
Multi-talented.
The name of that dog, by the way, owned by somebody down in Palm Beach, is Patton.
So it's not, wait, it's been born?
It is a dog that was shown to Barron Trump over the last couple of weeks by a woman down in Palm Beach. Said every president has a dog. Donald Trump said, go show it to Barron. Barron liked the dog, so maybe.
So they're definitely getting the stuff.
Maybe.
The Golden Doodle is the golden retriever, the sweet, loving golden retriever combined with the smarts of a poodle.
But here's what bothers me. Golden retrievers like to run away. What if he gets away?
We had one, never ran away. Loved.
Never,
just
really?
patting her tummy.
Okay.
That's all.
I wouldn't run away. Would you run away if you lived with them?
Right. Well, you know.
Three hops on a cot.
Maybe just your dogs run away.
Maybe.
All right. Meanwhile, let's switch gears. After 8 years of blaming America's problems on George W. Bush, the press has a brand new line hailing President Obama for handing Donald Trump a booming economy. The economy's booming, folks.
But critics point out, if this were true, why would Americans have voted out the party behind it?
Here to weigh in, Stuart Varney, host of Varney and Company. Stuart, I watched the president, too, talk about his legacy. He's very happy with what he's done with the economy.
Well, it sounds like desperate spin to me. We've had the worst recovery from a recession of any recovery since World War II. The middle class has shrunk. And the kind of jobs that we are, in fact, creating are not the kind of jobs that will put people in America's middle class. 1 week ago, as of last Friday, there was this jobs report, okay? 170-odd thousand new jobs created.
That sounds really good.
Oh, that's how the press played it. But when you dig into the numbers, 118,000 of these jobs were part-time jobs.
How many people said that part?
I mean, that was not mentioned. That was not reported by anybody else except
It's just
Fox
people
Business.
taking whatever they can get.
It's desperate spin.
Well, I also blame the people that put out the stats. That's an important dissemination, part-time and full-time. That's as important as the unemployment number.
Well, what we should be doing is digging deeper into these claims of a booming economy and expose what is really going on.
But you have to admit he did what he says. He helped pull us out of a crisis. Is he right?
I think the crisis was over by the time he'd spent his first 3 months in office. The recession that began in 2007 was over by June of 2009.
That's right.
And that was well.
And the stimulus?
A few months into it.
How much did the stimulus help?
The stimulus did not help at all because the stimulus money was spent after we were starting to come out of recession. But that's a long story.
All right, Donald Trump was voted to be the next president exactly, well, almost a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago. His favorability rating is better than it ever has been, 50%, and the economy's doing really well.
If you look at the stock market. The stock market is doing extremely
stock
well.
market.
We're up, I think, 1,100 points on the Dow Jones average.
Is there a correlation there?
Yes, there is. What Donald Trump has done, he's got this can-do cabinet, generals, business people with executive experience. They've got a goal, they want results, they know what they're doing. And investors look and say, you know, that works. Maybe we will get rapid economic growth. We're going to definitely get big stimulus, tax cuts, pump money into the economy, spending on the military, spending on infrastructure, pumps money into the economy. Sure. We're going to get growth. And that's why the stock market was going straight up as of now.
Well, you know, it's great to have a businessman because he understands business in the White House. I read yesterday that apparently he has made it clear he will personally negotiate with the president and CEO of Boeing for the deal on Air Force One, which is essentially what he did with Carrier and has done with United Technologies.
He's gone further. He said he's going to talk individually to the leaders of big companies, and he's going to strong-arm them. Now, that's not going down well with a lot of conservatives because they say, don't interfere with private enterprise like that. Don't mess up a corporation.
Let's get the best deal for the country.
He was elected to keep jobs in the United States of America, and that's what he is doing. If you want to complain about it, go complain, but that's what he's doing. And the market, investors, love it. You're in the middle of, well, not about the middle of, but you are seeing a Trump rally. Huge. And nobody predicted it. Nobody did.
Well, Stuart, I can predict one thing. You're going to be on from 9 to noon on the Fox Business Channel.
That's a solid prediction.
All right, Heather, now tell us what else is happening besides Stuart, who's always happening.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. A couple news headlines to bring you right now. Chaos and violence outside a high school in Reno when a teenager pulls out a knife and then starts swinging at his classmates. A school police officer shot the teen after the teen refused to drop the weapon. Watch this. That 16-year-old has now been hospitalized and is in critical condition. It all started as a fight between students, but no one else was hurt. The police officer now on administrative leave. Freedom set on fire. American flags flying outside 2 gyms in California burned to a crisp on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. The owners, one of them a combat veteran, defending that flag and what it stands for.
America is the best place. I mean, whether you want to accept that or not, it's got so much freedom, so much opportunity.
Go somewhere else for a couple of months and see what the rights you have there, and you'd be happy to come back here.
He is so right about that. Well, police are still trying to track down the suspect. Those new flags put up after the others burned. Michael Moore calling for violence on Inauguration Day. The controversial liberal filmmaker asking protesters on Twitter to disrupt President-elect Donald Trump's swearing in, saying, quote, disrupt the inauguration. The majority have spoken by nearly 2.7 million votes and counting. Silence is not an option. Well, the filmmaker predicted Mr. Trump's victory well before Election Day. And have you heard about this one? An admiral gets a standing ovation at Pearl Harbor on the 75th anniversary commemoration for calling out Colin Kaepernick. Commander Harry Harris taking a swipe at the 49ers quarterback for refusing to stand for the national anthem all season. You have to listen to this.
You can bet that the men and women that we honor today and those who died that fateful morning 75 years ago never took a knee and never failed to stand whenever they heard our national anthem being played.
He's right about that. Well, the comments bringing the crowd of servicemen and women to their feet for a lengthy applause. And those are your headlines. How about that?
Awesome.
Pretty incredible, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those guys are in their mid to late 90s.
Right.
So for them to stand.
Meant
a lot to them to hear
crying,
that.
remembering what they fought for and the sacrifices they made. The greatest generation.
Yeah, nice to hear that commander stand up.
Absolutely. Good for him.
We've come a long way. All right, Heather, thank you. All right, it's 20 minutes before the top of the hour. Janice Dean is outside. Janice, it's not as chilly here in New York as it was, but cold man winter is coming.
That is right, and we're going to get it this weekend. And maybe on Monday, maybe we will get some snow here in the Big Apple. Let's take a look at the map. I want to show you where the coldest air of the season is right now across the northern plains, sinking as far south as the Gulf Coast. But the coldest of the air right now is across the Rockies and the northern plains. Those are actual air temperatures. Watch what happens when I switch over to the wind chill. Minus 20s, minus 30s. So this is really dangerous cold, the coldest air we have felt so far. Quick look at the radar. We're looking at the potential for feet of snow across the Great Lakes, a little bit of rain and snow across Texas this morning, and our next big weather maker is moving into the West Coast with a lot of snow, a lot of rain, and this is the system we're going to watch for perhaps some snow. Our first major, well, I won't say major, our first snowfall perhaps in New York City on Monday. We will see. Stay tuned. And Brian Kilmeade, I just saw Marcus Allen in the hallway. He is one of the nicest people of all time.
Did he mention looking forward to talking with me, Stephen Ainsley, at all?
He congratulated me and said I was his favorite meteorologist of all time.
Fantastic.
And he was happy to see you too.
Take that right move.
All right. Janice,
Thank
is
you.
a cold man winter married to Mother Nature?
Oh, that's a good question. Right? I will find that out. I will Google that during the commercial break.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a great question. All right, straight ahead. Top of the hour. Sheriff David Clark will be with us. Why, he says, fake news started in Ferguson, Missouri.
And protesters in some of America's largest cities fighting to remain sanctuaries for illegals.
This is human territory. Liberation, not deportation.
So what can President-elect Trump do to enforce the law? All rise, Judge Andrew Napolitano is on the case. He's entering our chambers.
How do you know?
I see him right now.
Should I stay or should I go? It's always tease, tease, tease. You're happy when I'm on my knees.